There's a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't get talked about much. It's not the loneliness of being single. It's not the loneliness of living in a new city. It's not even the loneliness of losing people you loved. It's the loneliness of never belonging in the first place. The loneliness of being too much for every group you try to join. Too passionate for the laid-back crowd, too quiet for the loud crowd, too serious for the jokers, too wild for the serious ones, too intense for almost everyone. And if you felt that, you know it's brutal. It's like walking through life as a permanent outsider, watching everyone else slot neatly into groups while you hover on the edges, wishing there was a place you fit. This is the myth of belonging. Society sells us belonging like it's simple. You're supposed to find your people in high school or at work or in some hobby group. You're supposed to find your tribe and then everything clicks. But here's the truth. Belonging isn't guaranteed. And for some of us, it never happens in the traditional sense. Because belonging, the way it's usually defined, often requires shrinking. It requires fitting into the box of the group that is already built. And if you're someone whose life doesn't fit into boxes, then no matter where you go, you'll feel like you don't belong. Here's why you don't belong anywhere. Psychologists talk about differential susceptibility. Some people are highly reactive to their environments. They feel everything more, notice everything more, process everything more. That means you're not neutral. You clash or you shine, and you unsettle almost every time. That's why you often feel like the odd one out. You can't just sit in a room and ignore the tension. You cannot laugh at the joke that punches down. You can't go with the flow when the flow is cruel or even shallow. And groups sense that. They feel your difference. Sometimes they're intrigued, but more often they're threatened. And instead of expanding to include you, they push you out. So you start to believe the lie, maybe I'm broken. Maybe I don't belong anywhere. But the truth is, you don't belong because you refuse to shrink. And that's not brokenness. Many times, that's integrity. There's a pain, a deep pain, to non-belonging. Let's not sugarcoat it. We don't need to do that. Not belonging anywhere hurts like hell. It means walking into rooms and feeling like an alien. It means laughing at jokes you don't find funny just to not be isolated. It means nights staring at the ceiling wondering if you'll ever find a place where you can finally exhale. And the worst part, watching other people belong so easily. They slip into groups like they were born for them, while you stand on the edges, aching. It's easy to turn that pain inward, to think, what's wrong with me? Why can't I just be normal? But here's the thing. Normal is overrated. And survival doesn't come from forcing yourself into their circles. Survival comes from something else entirely. You need to build inner belonging. When you don't belong anywhere outside, you have to start by belonging to yourself. That means, for one, stop gaslighting yourself about your feelings. If you're hurt, you're hurt. If you're passionate, you're passionate. Stop editing your personality in your own head. Don't tell yourself you should be calmer, cooler, quieter. Start treating yourself like your own tribe. Ask, if I were my best friend, would I tell myself to tone it down, or would I tell myself to keep burning? Belonging to yourself doesn't erase the loneliness, but it gives you an anchor. It means even if the world rejects you, you still have one place where you're fully allowed. Stop looking for a crowd. The fantasy is always the same. One day you'll walk into a room and there they will be, your people. They will recognize you instantly, embrace you, and you'll never be lonely again. But real life rarely works like that. The truth is, most intense people don't find a tribe. They find a person or two, maybe three. Belonging doesn't have to mean a crowd. Sometimes it's a single friend who gets you. Sometimes it's a mentor. Sometimes it's a partner who doesn't flinch at your fire. So stop measuring belonging by numbers. 5 shallow connections won't feed you. One deep one might save you, however. You need to make art from this ache. Here's something that usually doesn't get told enough. Not belonging can be fuel, because when you're outside the group, you see things the insiders cannot. You see the hypocrisy, the masks, the unspoken rules, and you can turn that perspective into art. You can write it, paint it, sing it, film it, scream it. That's how misfits survive, by turning their alienation into expression, by making beauty out of the ache, by transforming I don't belong into I see what others can't. Belonging may be rare, but meaning, well, you can make meaning out of anything. And then there's one more thing, belonging without permission. Most of us spend our lives waiting for permission. Permission to speak, to feel, to shine. Permission to belong. But here's the truth. Belonging isn't granted. It's claimed. When you stop asking to be invited in, when you stand in your own fire without apology, something shifts. People may still not get you, but they respect you. They orbit you. Some will even join you, not because you fit their group, but because your unapologetic presence makes them brave enough to admit they never belonged either. You don't wait for belonging, you create it. However, you need some survival skills for that. The survival skills that probably no one taught you. If you don't belong anywhere, you need tools, real ones. Radical solitude. Learn to be with yourself without collapsing. Take long walks. Journal. Let silence teach you you're still whole. Also, emotional regulation. Intensity without grounding burns you out. You need breath work. You need lifting weights, art, meditation. These are not luxuries. They're survival gear. You also need selective vulnerability. Don't bleed out in front of people who cannot hold your truth. Save it for the few who've earned the right to hear it. You need creative transmutation. When the loneliness spikes, pour it into something tangible. A song, a painting, a rant on paper. Expression turns ache into power. No one taught us this, but these are the skills that turn exile into endurance. If you think about it, survival is resistance. Here's the bigger picture. Not belonging isn't just personal, it's political, because the people who don't belong are often the ones who see the cracks in the system. the one who notice what others ignore, the ones who refuse to swallow lies just to fit in. And every time you survive without shrinking, you resist. You resist conformity. You resist numbness. You resist a world that thrives on people being easy, silent, and small. So survival isn't just about making it through. It's about standing as proof that other ways of living are possible. Let's be honest, surviving is step one, but it's not the whole story. Because if all you ever do is survive, you'll stay in exile forever. The next step is to build, to thrive. That means finding or creating micro communities where you do belong, even if they're online, even if they're just a handful of people. Building a life where your fire fuels you instead of drains you. You need to allow yourself joy, even if you feel like an outsider while you experience it. Thriving as someone who doesn't belong everywhere means realizing you don't need to. One deep connection, one safe outlet, one place where you can exhale. That's enough to turn survival into strength. So if you feel like you don't belong anywhere, please hear me. You are not broken. You are just unboxed. You are never meant to fit neatly. You are meant to stand out, unsettle, awaken. And yes, it hurts, but it also liberates you from the cages other people accept as homes. So don't shrink. Don't beg for entry. Don't twist yourself into someone else's shape just to sit at their table. Build your own. And trust this. Somewhere, someday, someone will see your fire and say, I thought I was the only one. If you've ever felt like you don't belong anywhere, this is your place. Because that's what I'm building here. A space for the outsiders, the intense, the misfits. The ones who are always too much or not enough. So if you're done twisting yourself to fit, stick around. Subscribe to Way Out of Line and let's survive together, not by shrinking, but by standing tall in our difference. Because survival isn't about finding a place where you belong. It's about refusing to disappear when you don't.